Bună ziua! Se aude? Se aude. O să zic bună ziua că este cumva între zi și seară. E vreme foarte frumoasă și mă bucur că totuși ați îndrăznit să intrați aici la întuneric pentru a discuta despre distribuția de film documentar. KineDok organizează această discuție. KineDok este un proiect important al Asociației One World Romania. Noi oferim o rețea de distribuție alternativă, de fapt o alternativă la distribuția tradițională și ducem documentarele în spații cât mai accesibile publicului, mergând dincolo de sălile de cinema, care oricum sunt foarte puține și uneori poate mufturoase în programare.
Maybe I do just a very short English translation for our foreign guests. Monica Stan is presenting our program, KineDok, one of the programs of the One World Romania Association, which is in fact an alternative distribution program for creative documentaries in alternative spaces, not cinemas, but galleries and clubs and places like this.
Okay. We can continue in English. I just wanted to have like a small welcome in Romanian. I hope everyone is okay with English. The whole event will be in English. We wanted to organize this event because we felt the need to maybe have a few brains together, coming up with solution for distribution, for cinema distribution in general and documentary distribution in particular, because we heard so many, how to say, filmmakers who have issue with this. We ourselves struggle with this. We try to how to say, reach as far as we can with documentaries, but we often find a lot of obstacles. So we wanted to see how it is in other countries, in other areas. So we have a very selection here of very interesting distributors representing all sides, or at least many sides of the distribution chain. And I would like to invite them to present themselves, starting with Thor Fosse from Bergen International Film Festival, and he's the owner also of Tour de Force, Scandinavian and Norwegian distribution company. Please.
Yeah, hello everybody. I started out early, by the end of the 70s, so I'm the oldest guy here, working for the Norwegian Federation of Film Societies and the Bergen Film Society for 10 years, or more than that. And then I was asked to become establishing the Artos, which is the foundation, importing quality films, as we call it. And that was it's established in '92. And then I also worked with the Norwegian television, and I also had a third job because I started the Tromsø International Film Festival, which is far up north in the Arctic. And I was there for 8 years without living there. But I made that festival for 8 years, and then I was asked to move to Tromsø, and I said I can't do that because it's too cold, it's too dark. So I moved back to Bergen, which is my town, and I got the opportunity to start the Bergen International Film Festival in 2000, because Bergen was the European cultural city that year, together with 8 other European cities. So then I started Bergen Film Festival, and my boss in Tromsø said, you cannot do the same as you have been doing in Tromsø, being the producer and programmer there. And I said, no, I'm going to do a little change. I'm going to have a lot of documentaries as well, because we didn't do that in Tromsø. So now we have about 20 years anniversary, and we have about 100 documentaries presented and about 60 fiction films. So documentaries are being very important to us, and I think it has something to do with that I'm getting older, and wiser, maybe. But anyway, I want to see the real stuff and not the fiction stuff so much. My colleagues are much younger than me. They are much more into fiction. So they do that. They are now at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, whereas I'm going here. So yeah, there's a lot more to say, but I have to say one thing, that when we started the Tromsø Festival in 1991, it was unheard of that we were allowed to make a festival, because there was only going to be one festival in Norway, one film festival, and that was in Haugesund, because the cinema association was very strong and very solidaric, and they only wanted one film festival in Norway. So when my colleague or cinema manager in Tromsø and me got together, we were two anarchists saying, we can't have that anymore, we have to have more festivals. So now we have about 40 festivals in Norway. So yeah, so I'm very happy that we were anarchistical about that. Okay, I think that's enough.
The distribution?
Yeah, the distribution company, yeah, and Tour de Force is, this is the only children film we have.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of arts films, that we call it, art house films. I did that because when I finished art house in '94, I moved to Bergen, and I started my own company with distribution, because I just felt I had to do that. But I didn't do very much because I had the festivals. But when I started Bergen Film Festival, there was a lot of festivals coming, and the competition between the festivals to get the right films were quite strong. So I decided, one reason, to buy films, because to get it to the festival, because instead of going to other festivals in Norway, I said, this film we are going to have in Bergen, and so I bought it, one after another. The other reason was that Christian, who is my colleague, we couldn't afford to have him working with the festival. So I said, well, you are going to work with the Tour de Force. So that's the two reasons why, because he was very important and clever guy. So we started Tour de Force, and we had about 10 to 14 films a year. And some are brilliant art house films, and some are brilliant documentaries. So, yeah, I think that's enough
For now.
Yeah.
First to Diana.
Diana, yeah, Diana Tabaco.
Yes, shall I come more in front? Hi, hello. Thank you for inviting me to this event. So I'm here to represent online distribution of documentary films. I'm the head of acquisitions of Doc Alliance Films, dafilms.com. So that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years. But I also work as a distribution manager for some projects, for some documentaries. So maybe we can talk about combining online and offline strategies of releasing films. But Doc Alliance Films is a platform that is, if you could, Alec, go all the way down.
All the way down?
All the way down.
Okay.
Oh, a bit high. Yeah, here. Yeah, okay, this is the part. So we're an alliance based on, we're based on a Doc Alliance of 7 film festivals. You might know some of them, but we are collaborating for over 12 years now, and we do various projects together, and this is one of the most visible projects, the VOD distribution of documentaries. So you could see that all the festivals are actually across the Europe. It's CPH Docs in Copenhagen, Doc Lisboa in Portugal, Docs Against Gravity is a Polish film festival, Doc Leipzig in Germany, Film Marseille in France, Jihlava in Czech Republic, and Vision Studel in Nyon in Switzerland. So these festivals decided at a certain point that it's interesting to start cooperating together, even though festival directors, of course, fight over film premieres and programs and so on. So it's very interesting actually, even just this one day that these festival directors sit at one table and discuss things, especially at times when alliances are breaking up, right? So I think it's important to stick to this one. So DA Films presents more than, let's say, 1,900 documentaries. We take on board about 150 or 200 films a year. We have worldwide rights, so we have audiences mainly in the countries where our Doc Alliance festivals are, because these are our partners who help us promote the platform to their audiences at the festivals, and which is a very important tool for us, of course, that we as a VOD platform are actually based on an offline, realistic thing, you know, because there are many VOD platforms that have been created over these years and they were disappearing, you know, new businesses were coming, disappearing and so on, but really, like, building your identity helps out, even though it was very, very slow. It took us 12 years to somehow get to a larger audience, but we were somehow clear about what our identity is, and that helped us actually survive. And the identity is also kept thanks to these film festivals that are helping us out and promoting in their countries. And also I wanted to say, when you were talking about art house films, it's funny because I also don't know sometimes which term to use, because I don't think you can use art house that much anymore. It's usually festival films. It's like the word is skipped, which is also an interesting question for distribution, because now we're talking not art house that much, but festival films. That's where at the film festivals, that's where the films, you can get their visibility and their audiences. But anyway, that's too many topics at once. Yeah, so this is, to come back to the project, so we are mainly a curator. We have a program every 2 weeks. You can stream and download documentaries there. Sometimes the films have geo-blocking, so if there is someone who has an exclusive contract in Romania with a broadcaster, the film will not be available here. But otherwise, you should be capable of watching most of them here in Romania. And so we have Ruth Beckerman as well, of course. I don't know if she's here. I saw her in the garden. Yeah, she's online. But anyway, we present films that are made for cinemas, so it doesn't really matter if exactly Ruth is somewhere and her films are in the cinemas. They're made for cinemas, but also this project was launched 12 years ago, mainly not as a business at all, but with the idea of let's represent these festival films somewhere, because there's a total lack of distribution. So this was the main idea. We have a lot of films, hey, let's put them online. It was more of a bit of an anarchist idea at that time, but then you see it's becoming a bit of a business model for filmmakers now as well. Okay, I think we'll talk more later. Yeah.
Okay, to Oliver Sertic.
Hello everyone, I'm Oliver Sertic, I'm coming from Zagreb, Croatia. We are running an organization called Restart. I'm representing Restart, and we are doing several things connected mainly with documentary. So we do production, we do distribution of films for ex-Yugoslavian countries. We have educational program with the School of Documentary Film, 6 months course for young filmmakers. And we are running exclusive documentary cinema in the city of Zagreb, and co-organizing Croatian Documentary Film Festival in city of Opatija. So that is the oldest documentary film festival in the country. It's 17th year now. KineDok, we are official Croatian partners of KineDok, and it's part of label, Restart label, that is our distribution program in Croatia, and distribution we basically do with our partners in other countries of ex-Yugoslavia. So we work with Demiurg in Slovenia, with 5-star films in Serbia, with Makedoks in Macedonia, with DokuFest in Kosovo. So basically when we acquire the film for this official distribution point, we basically share the expenses. That's the only possibility for us to do also art, let's say art documentaries. We acquire basically like 10 feature documentaries a year, this is what we can do, because for us it's very important that every film goes to the cinema, not only the TV distribution. And so we acquired, basically we always start with the festival, then we try to organize a theatrical distribution. It depends, it goes from 10 to 35 cinemas, depends on the title. And we have some transaction VOD platforms that are connected with the cable channels and offering it to the TV, but basically, unfortunately, in Croatia, only national television is buying a bit, not too much, like 5 to 8 titles a year. That helps us financially.
Local. You mean local, national Croatian?
Croatian national television, but basically...
No, but the films are local, national.
No. They're buying everything. Actually, they have separated foreign program, but they are paying, I can even tell the prices, it's 1,400 euro they pay for a feature film. For Croatian film they need to pay more, and they have a special call on apply. But as now we have a right-wing government and pretty much assholes in the national television, I mean, we have a really tough time to sell anything that is even a bit socially critical or political. Before it was completely different. They bought absolutely everything we ever produced or distributed, and now they did, last year we sold like 2 films, and one is not even good, but it was nice, it's anorexia story, so everybody can, and they even broadcasted it in the prime time. I mean, it's a bit, yeah, lack of anything, so we just need to agree to sell whatever just to be able to survive. So in KineDok part, I think we have like 24 to 27 locations in the country. That is pretty okay, with some original stuff. We do some, as you call it, pop-up screenings that are like, we did Trade to Adulthood Hungarian film on the railway station in the small city of Zabok. I mean, everything is small in Croatia, but there, so we did also Mountaineer Home for like small amount of people, and we did some things on the beach as well, but usually it's libraries, small clubs, NGO, small NGO venues, and in Dokino, in our cinema, it is like not DCP cinema, but we screen like MP4 stuff, and it's part of the cultural center in the center of Zagreb. So
this is, you manage this 56 cinema in the downtown Zagreb?
Yeah, this is this year it's 10 years since we exist. We actually started 10 years ago as complete lunatics, actually, as every ex-socialist country had a censorship cinemas. And in Zagreb there was one as well. So it was very small venue with like 30 seats, 30 very cozy armchairs, where censors used to watch the film before the actual release. And of course, after the 90s, it was almost empty. They had a small bar there, and they said they had a distribution company. Of course, it was fakely privatized for very small money from some local tycoon. But they had it open, and we just knocked the door of the local tycoon and said, look, we are kids, we want to do documentary cinema. And he was looking at us, okay, like, let's try. And we moved after 3 or 4 years for different reasons, because they started to take more and more money from us. So now we have a deal with the cultural center in the center that doesn't do a lot of programs. We have 6 screenings a week of different programs, not our own programs, but we also collaborate with different distributors around. We screen a lot of regional films, and we cooperate a lot with the festivals, because this is how we can decrease the expenses. We do like 5 to 6 master classes of documentaries a year. KineDok, of course, a lot of discussions on different social topics, yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Sorry, I have just one small question. You mentioned you have 10 to 35 screens for each of the films, and that's within Croatia or within the region?
It's only Croatia. The thing is that, I mean, ex-Yugoslavia is 7 countries, and basically each country has its own specifics. That's why, first, we don't have capacity to distribute it all, but also, I mean, it helps with the expenses, as I told, but they know, the local distributors know specifics there. So, but the theatrical distribution goes actually in Slovenia at 7 to 15 screens. We do a bit, and Serbia are very little bit. So, I mean, Macedonia, Kosovo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, they mostly do either school screenings or festivals. Of course, they all have festivals, school screenings a bit, and some off screenings. But I mean, this is about it on the distribution. So I mean, we are just doing what we can, but we are buying the whole territory because every sales agent is considering Yugoslavia one territory, so it's easier to acquire like this.
Okay, good. And now Maya, please, if you can introduce yourself.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. It's so nice to be here. My first time in Bucharest, beautiful city. I'm running a non-profit organization called Doc Lounge. We are a distribution company and a screening network, you can say, for high-profile new documentaries. We started 12 years ago in Malmö, in southern Sweden, and with the vision to kind of rebrand documentary and make it more accessible and more fun and more hyped in a way, to attract a younger and broader audience, because at that time, at least in Sweden, the audience for documentaries were 65 plus, or and people watched it on television and thought maybe, you know, it's interesting sometimes, important, but not something that I want to do after work with my friends. So we started a new concept that we combined the documentary with a social event, with local music, with a bar, with hosts, with ambassadors, to make it as a nice event to go to after work with your friends or with your partner. And it was very, very successful. People started coming even though they didn't thought they liked documentaries. I was also one of them. Studying volunteering for Doc Lounge 12 years ago, and I was like, I don't really like documentaries, but hey, it's fun, it's a lot of people, I meet a lot of, the energy was so nice, I was new in town. And then after after 3 months, you've seen a new documentary every week, you realize like, wow, documentaries are fantastic, they could be fun, they are really creative, and there's so many different types of documentaries as well. So now, of course, 12 years later, I love documentaries, and I'm really passionate about bringing documentaries out to new audiences and really make sure that new people understand the greatness of documentaries. So it started as a local event. We did screenings every week. We work a lot with the brand of Doc Lounge so that we don't have to market all titles so much, but also the event and the brand. And then it spread out through Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and Norway. So we have those kind of exclusive, unique events in around 20 cities. So that's kind of one part of what we do, like organizing and screening, co-organizing this screening network. But then we also do distribution of some titles that we also distribute not only through this network, but also on cinemas, but also other kind of community screenings in libraries, etc. We have done some social projects, so that we've been screening films in women prisons, for example, doing workshops. We have a project with Georgia where we go and help them do workshops around audience development and so on. And now we also have a new project called Doc Lounge Impact Hub, where we want to really focus on taking documentary distribution into a new level, kind of connecting it with impact work. And I know there's a lot of directors working with it, especially in documentary. And now we want to connect it really with distribution, so that the distribution of a film goes hand in hand with impact work, so that you can work with, so that the audience is not only the cinema audience or the event club audience, but it could also be very focused on different target groups depending on the topic of the film, and how that can go hand in hand together. So that's our new project that we're working on. Yeah. Here, I don't know if there's anything else I have to say right now. It's we do select around 20 films a year that we distribute through the network. But then we also screen other films, around 70 films a year, more local premieres and other kind of collaborations with festivals and so on, but not a whole network, but more locally distributed. And yeah.
So it's an association, or what's the form of?
It's an association, yes, non-profit.
So you're a production company?
No, we are association as well.
And association. You are
Association.
Yeah. Well, independent from the IDF or
Yeah,
from
totally
the
independent from.
Czech Institute of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Film. But it started somehow.
It was founded by the Jihlava Film Festival, actually, but it was independent from the beginning.
You explain where you come from, or
Yeah.
now it's
We are not an association, we are a company and a company, both.
both.
Yeah.
The festival is a company.
Yeah, it's owned by the Berlin cinema.
Cinema.
Yeah, which is again owned by the city.
Yeah.
Ah,
Maybe
yeah.
now we should go a bit more in depth. So you see we have, they are very varied, covering in many ways the distribution. Maybe we should go a bit more in depth with how it works for each of you. Like I'll go back to Thor with how do you select your films and what is the process? Like do you accept submissions? Do you approach filmmakers? Like, tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, well, when it comes to national films, they are sent to us, and we pick them from mostly documentary films, but also fiction films, and we pick them from what we get. But when it comes to international films, it's very much based on other festivals, in fact. So we go to, after BIF, we go to ITFA in Amsterdam and watch films, and we go then, in the new year, we go to Sundance, which is in Rocky Mountains Sundance Film Festival, which is very important for us because there's a lot of good documentaries there, and not so very good feature other films, but the documentaries are very good. And the Berlinale in February, and now my colleagues are in South by West in Texas for the music and film festival. And then we also are sending people to Copenhagen Docs, which is next week. And then there is Tribeca in New York, and of course Cannes Festival in France. And there's also a festival in Sheffield in June that I go to, which is a documentary festival. And then there's the Kalibagori Festival, which is a red carpet film festival, as I say here. But it's really nice to be there, and I love the festival. I don't go to the cinema because I watch films online much more. But I've been there for 20 years, and that was the beginning of why Norway is part of this only Central European associate or network. Because I've been to Kalibagori 20 years, I've been to Ilava, I've been to One World in Prague, and my colleagues have been to Olomouc as well, which is a science festival in the Czech Republic. And then we got to know Watchdogs in Poland, in Warsaw, and we had a cooperation with them and with Ilava. So we have really been very focused on Central Europe for a good many years, and also, of course, American films and European films. But it's been very nice to know all these people from Central Europe. So basically, we pick films from other festivals, basically. But then from time to time we have a relationship with, when we had with Ilava, we picked films from the Czech Republic, and when we had in Poland with Warsaw, we had Polish films. And so we do not only pick from festivals.
It's very interesting because you have the point of view of a festival director, but also as a distributor. What would you say is the difference in selecting, in the criteria of selecting the films for the festival, in those selecting the films for your distribution company?
Well, as I said, it's, for me it was very important to have some films that was, for instance, in the competition in Cannes, and I knew that if I didn't buy them, somebody else would buy them, and then I was not sure if we could present them at our festival, or if it would go to another festival in Norway. So it's a competition thing. I said, I want this film, like Jupiter's Moon by Cornel Mundrushko from Hungary, but he's from Transylvania. You told me, or someone told me?
You told me.
Okay, you told me. Yes, but anyway, he was at my festival, and I loved the film, and I didn't want anybody else to buy it, so that it would turn up on another festival.
But did it work?
It didn't work. It worked very well in Bergen. It was a great audience, great show, Q&A and all that. But the rest of Norway, they didn't see it. So we had it for distribution, but only made about 2,000 admissions. So it didn't work quite well.
So what do you think works? What do you think it works?
Which film?
Gamble.
It's a gamble, yes, it's a gamble, but it has to be your heart to have to decide what to take or not to take. So now I took a film by the Hungarian director Laszlo Nemes called Sunset, which is a really hard film to understand, especially if you're not from Hungary. But it seems the cinema managers, who they decide if I can screen the film at their cinemas or not. I don't have any cinemas, so I'm very dependent on them. And when most of them say, no, this film is too difficult, but I always kept them in Oslo, and most of the time in Bergen and Trondheim. But when the film critics say this is a masterpiece, then it happens. So Sunset is going all right, but many other films not. But I had a film in KineDok called Siblings Forever, a Norwegian film, about two people from 70 years old people with vegetable. They are very crooked and run a farm up north in Norway. And I said, it's so special, this film, that I just have to do it. And it really got 42,000 admissions, so that was really a success as a documentary film, Norwegian documentary film. Yeah, and I have somebody else, like Dogman, La Main Double, which is François Asson. Those two were in the main competition in Cannes, and Hannah was in Venice. And we just buy them because we love them. And most of them are not doing very well, I'm afraid. But still, we...
There are subsidies that you can apply for.
Yeah, we apply for subsidies, but we never know if we get the subsidies. So, like Lamadou and Dogman, we got subsidies. Hannah, we didn't get. So that was a film that really did very bad for our bottom line, you know.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to come back to Maya and Doc Lounge, because do you have this? What's your selection process, and this let's say, commercial part? Is this any criteria, or is it just part of the pressure on you, or not?
I mean, we also pick most of our films from festivals, and also, of course, Swedish films we take normally before, maybe sometimes not. And yeah, I mean, we're not a club for cinephiles, so it's really, we really try to make a program that is very broad. We love all the films that we screen, it's not like that, but it's not only like small art films or very like creative ones. It could also be broader ones like music documentaries, or really funny ones, or films that are more easy to also sell or to attract a younger audience with. And like that we can mix our program with like those bigger titles with smaller titles, if you say so, or more difficult titles, and bring audience in with the bigger ones, and then yeah, when they're trapped they also see the other ones, the other more difficult films. So we try to have a really broad. We want to have films from all over the world, so we try to like find films from new countries all the time. And then we have also tried to have gender balanced programs, so 50% women directed films. We try to have different topics all the time, but we are really, what's important for us is that, I mean, even if we have a good topic, it needs to be a really good film, because we know a lot of people come to see a good film, not to see a good, like, because they're interested in the topic. So one criteria could be like, okay, this film is about cars, whatever. So anyone who comes and sees this film, even if they're not interested at all in cars, they should enjoy the film, they should like the film. But then, of course, I mean, there's always people who don't like the film. We don't have films that everyone likes. That's impossible, and that's also an interesting discussion point sometimes after the films. Like the audience are really divided. Some people love them, some people don't like them, and so on. So yeah, but then of course it's also a competition all the time. There's quite a few distributors in Sweden at the moment who buys the films for cinema distribution, and that's always more attractive to a sales agent or a producer, even though I know that they sometimes would have had more audience and more money from us, but it doesn't always seems or sounds more bigger and more beautiful. So that's a bit tricky, but for us it's also, in that sense, we always want to do what's best for the film, and so if someone else is taking it on, then it's fine, we take something else, but of course sometimes you struggle also.
But you acquire exclusive rights, like for the launch or?
Normally we required only screening rights, but exclusive rights for a certain period of time. So what we want is not, we don't have to have like national premieres, but we want to have city premieres. So it's always for each city that we do screening, when we do our like unique exclusive events, we want that to be the first screening in that city. So it's because we started off as like a launching platform really for documentaries. So in the beginning we did quite a lot of like pre-screening before the film went up on cinema. So we collaborated with other distributors and cinemas as making a great fun event, reaching out to another audience and kind of start to get the buzz going before the cinema premiere.
It's very different for you because you have your online, Jana, and so you're not at all community-based or city-based or streaming all over the place.
Yeah, but it's not streamed by robots, you need to approach people in the end. It's still people. Yeah, I mean, that's a very demanding thing, of course, to do international promotion of something worldwide. Because you would think, okay, you have worldwide territories, it's super easy to get big numbers then and so on, but firstly it is very difficult to get films on board early enough, because of course then you're waiting for the festival premieres. So it used to be that the film went online 2 years after the festival premiere. Now it's getting shorter. What we're doing now is, which way we're heading is that we are going to do more localized versions of our platform. So we're launching a Slovakian one because we're based in Prague in Czech Republic, so Slovakia is it's a similar market we understand, so that's the first step we need to do. But also we will have a homepage that is somehow created for the US, well, not only US, but American audiences, and then for the Asian audiences as well. So, because we understand that of course you need to somehow communicate the content you are presenting culturally somehow. We got this feedback. We got feedback from people who live in the US, and they said, your platform is super European. This is like, yeah, it's like really European. And I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, it is a European platform, so okay. But also, one of our largest audiences are US and UK, actually, the ones that are the developed markets, because they're used to spending money legally for films online. So that's why it's working that well there. So we're like approaching also communities in a way. I think our community is cinephiles actually, and film festival goers, and people who are discovering art. And in this way we try to approach these communities in all the territories. So our stronger territories are the ones France, Germany, Czech Republic, UK, US, and then sometimes Philippines, Brazil, Chile, and countries like that, which is always a surprise. And then in India, of course, but those are the robots, that's spam that you need to like read out from the Google Analytics. So yeah, so we need to try and somehow communicate. And of course, the thing is that we don't really present films that have a local marketing, that haven't been to the local cinemas. They don't have a localized version. So it is somehow, what do you stand on, like, from that, you know? It's not that it had a poster over the city. So we really need to think of ways how to reach out to these audiences, and so far we have been working on the brand. So I must say that, like, the brand is an important thing. I think it's more important for a VOD platform than for a distributor, of course, because the distributor is not really promoting his label, but more, I think, the films themselves. With us, it's quite important to do this. But also what we are doing is, now that we're taking the films from our platform and embedding them to other websites, which is reacting more to what internet is actually. It's not building, you know, a wooden house or a cinema where you need to bring people inside, but it's more like about sharing and going viral and so on. So you're like looking for the audiences. So like KineDok is an offline alternative distribution. We are trying to do an online alternative distribution and try and sell the films on other websites where people read about the topic and so on. So these are also ways of how you can work, but each kind of distribution of documentary film is, we say in Czech, it's like little ant work. Like, it's a lot of work, little steps, and you have to have a strategy. And if you do all these steps, then maybe you can actually achieve anything. But I don't think there's one mechanism that you can copy all the time. And I don't think that, yeah, and I think it's a lot of energy that doesn't bring any money. So it's not a sustainable model that much. You really need to have people who love the films behind it and have a motivation and a reason to do it. Otherwise you disappear. It's much more, yeah, it's logical.
You said something in the beginning that it helped you really a lot to have the offline network of the festivals in order to sustain the online.
Yeah.
And you said that a lot of VOD platforms disappeared because they didn't have this offline support. So maybe you can explain a bit about this, how it helped you to have like the offline base.
Well, totally, because it's about the credibility and again the identity. So there were a lot of, I mean, of course, in a atmosphere and a society of people who are afraid of paying for things online or not used to paying for things online, which totally the Central European region where we were launching it was, then of course you need to somehow have a certain credibility, and these festivals helped us get this. And also we were all, the Doc Alliance Films was always a group of filmmakers, curators, and so on. So it was more than logical that most of our friends are actually festivals or from film festivals. So it was just a bunch of people who actually have a same understanding, a similar aim, what to do with films, how to work with them, which kind of films we're looking for, what we think is right and wrong. And when we kind of settled this bunch of friends, I mean the Doc Alliance, then of course we somehow could also focus on the online project, because coming out only with something that is online, I don't think would be credible for the audiences worldwide, especially, and working with films that are totally unknown from a, I don't know, like avant-garde French Asian documentary from Fit Marseille, you know, like difficult. So yeah, totally, the film festivals helped us build up a brand and a label, and help the documentaries reach a visibility.
And now the monthly thing is €6.
Yeah, it's a subscription model, €6, but that's also interesting after the years of my experience in VOD acquisitions, is that before it was difficult to get films online. Then it was difficult to get films online early. And now it's the business models that are kind of fighting. So because of the broadcasters who didn't really speed up with the progression of their model, so then they don't have have their online versions and so on and so on. So it's mainly in each territory it's a bit different. In Central Europe it's a lot about HBO Go and Czech television, maybe Netflix entering now and so on. So a lot of these big players are actually fighting over films with their business model. So if a TV is a co-producer of your film, they would keep their SVOD rights especially. SVOD rights is something that they don't want to give out because it's important for them. So if I would like a film that is quite new and I don't want to wait for 2 years, then I need to make it available through the so-called TVOD, which is transactional VOD. That means it's like an iTunes model, so you just pay for one film. SVOD is the Netflix model, the subscription VOD, which is much more better for filmmakers. It's the way how to make money, it's the way how to get audiences. I mean, SVOD is the way that most of the VOD platforms will be heading for now, for sure. But of course, with the newer films, then we sometimes have to have only the TVOD available because we're waiting until the broadcaster shows the film. But this is maybe a bit more in details for you.
No, it's not. It's
It's yeah, many figures from the industry here. So yes, it's not too technical. It's a bit scary, but. So, Oliver, do you have any plans to go online with this?
Yes, of course. I mean, I was hesitating for years. I mean, you go to Restart Label.
Yeah.
This is the distribution platform. It should work. No, it's not what you want. Click again.
That's fine.
Well, no, sorry. Go there. Yeah, I need to tell them to repair it. Okay, so as I told, we have we go with every film to cinemas because it's very important for us. Even sometimes, a lot of time, we lose money in cinema, so we are covering with the TV sales or these things if we sell. And the way we are mostly buying films from the festivals, but two partners from Slovenia and Serbia are actually they're doing also fiction stuff, art fiction. So we have different windows. My window is Doc Leipzig, Hot Dogs, ITFA, and basically direct contacts with sales agents. Their window is more Cannes, Sundance, Toronto, this stuff. So basically, as they buy a lot with the fiction films as well, for example, they have contact with Match Factory that I don't. So Slovenian comes to me, I have a film, do you want to take it for Croatia? I say yes. And then the same for Serbia and the rest of Yugoslavia. I'm coming with the films that are not so much sellable, but with the time I realize that I need to survive as well. So I mean, you have, these are DVDs, it's pretty obsolete. We still did it last year, but we are still selling it and earning €1,000 a year for DVDs, as you do probably as well. So I mean, okay, so On the Water is the winner of Leipzig. It's a Croatian film that we are just released now. It's Bergman, it's Touch Me Not, Grace Jones, and this is Close Relations by Mansky. And if you go up a bit, yeah, the Srbenka, this is the film that you can watch here in the program. It's our production. If you go there on Filmovi, I mean, in Yugoslavia we all speak same language. It's only in our language. That's how we call it.
The advantage of a former empire.
Hmm?
The advantage of a former empire.
Yeah.
Like Thor and Maya were speaking each one their language, the Norwegian and Swedish, and they were understanding.
Anyway, we need to do the subtitles. I mean, even Serbian and Croatian is almost the same language. We can't, by law, we can't have Serbian subtitles on the film. No way. So, so basically, the films that I like, it's not here. We bought Taste of Salmon that we are going to release next month. This is the film that will probably lose money, but we earned some money with Whitney Houston. It was pretty easy. We earned some money with Laibach that is here. Trieste, Yugoslavia, it was immense. It was 5,000 people. We didn't, even if it's TV film. Okay, Herzog was La La.
5,000 is good or?
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, I think is that besides Gangster of Love, it was our film and it was like huge success, like almost 10,000. this was the next most successful film that we had. But it depends, you know, people in Croatia, doesn't matter that we are trying to explain what is documentary, what does it mean. I mean, documentary is film for the TV with a lot of things. And Trieste, Yugoslavia, as whole Yugoslavia during the socialism, went to buy Levi's and stuff in Trieste, in Italy. It was our window to the West. Everybody knows, everybody can associate to it. And of course, all the media made a huge texts about it. So the cinemas were full. And it was a huge success. Even the film is like very TV. It's not a film that any festival would probably take. But it was, it's like this. And we of course distribute our own films that we produce. For Gangster of Love we tried to Blitz Cinestar, but they had very greedy contracts, so we just gave up and decided to go on our own. And we reached like 65 cinemas and venues. And even some that didn't exist, we created them for one-off screening, I think. No, so it's more or less this.
And what about the Doku Kino? How does it work? I mean, what is your audience? Is it like a regular audience? Because we were thinking, how would like documentary cinema work?
It's pretty new thing. So Doku Kino is it's 70 seats cinema, 50 to 70, and it's basically part of the cultural center. So it's not made as a cinema; it's made to host different events. So it's not technically perfect, but it's good enough for the screenings. I mean, the sound is good and the picture is good and everything. So now we have different programs and different audiences. So basically, when we go to the regular distribution, we depend on the media. If the media will really take I mean, we have a PR company working with us, and if we manage to push the film good enough, people are coming. Sometimes we risk, of course. I mean, we screen now, I don't know, Obscuro Barocco, that is semi-experimental Greek film, and we didn't expect much people, and it was 15 people. That's definitely not much, but still, we really care, and we think that even these 15 people, it's some 15 different experiences that will come out of the cinema with something. And, but for example, now we have the program, it's called Hall of Fame, and we screen, we call it epics of documentaries, only films that are like documentaries at 3 hours or longer. And on Hoop Dreams, it was like 40-something people, that was like incredible. And we also have this, I think this is the film that you just had, Sorrow and the Pity or something like this. Honor of the Furnaces. Do you have this one? No. There was one that you have here in the program as well. Super long.
This one, the Elisa Georgieva film.
I know this is Every Wall is a Door, it's KineDok Lounge in Croatia.
Otherwise, what? You mean long films?
Long
we have Le Chagrin et la Pitié, Van Bing, or Van Bing, you show?
No, not Van Bing. It doesn't matter. There is a Hall of Fame program. So yeah, we usually have program Wednesday, as you can see, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday, 2 screenings, and we are also starting the program for 55 plus, and we have also children program. We screen them, the film, and then we have a conversation.
How much is the ticket?
€3. This is regular. I mean, in cineplexes in Croatia, it's around €5. In Cinema Europa is €3.50, so we can't get more than €3 in there. And we have a lot of free programs, because for us it's important to get. We have loyalty program, it's like €20 for whole year for the card, like loyalty card, and we give out DVDs because I mean we need to we need to keep DVDs out of the office. Like one film.
Yeah.
But basically, we start with 5 screenings, but then we leave some slots open in the like immediately after. And as we are distributors as well, we cooperate with 3 different other cinemas in Zagreb itself. So basically, we program that as we can't have whole week, and it's not like typical cinema, then we program the film 5 screenings in our cinema, and then the next day immediately in another cinema, like Cinematheque, 1 screening, and then in another place. So if you want to watch the film as it is still hot, you can travel through Zagreb, let's say, to catch it. And basically this is Czech model that I took from Cinema Oko. I actually realized that the copy is traveling through Prague and coming back to the same cinema after a week or 2 weeks or something like this. And this is something that we are testing, and sometimes it works, sometimes not. I mean, it's like this.
I suggest for a change that we watch your video, which is short,
Okay.
lively, and then
Should
maybe we open to.
Should I just introduce it? Just as an example of some events that we've been doing, we did this dog lounge. We changed the concept for one night. So instead of dog lounge, it became dog lounge, and it was the screening of Los Reyes, the films that won IFA this year, Chile film from Chile, about 2 stray dogs. So we invited everyone to bring their dogs for an event. So it's just, we made a small film.
Minutes, 40 seconds.
They had a really good time, the dogs. They got some snacks and everything, so it was nice. It was a fun event. Good for PR and everything. We got a lot of PR, and so it's just an example of what you can do to kind of highlight a film that is quite difficult to get an audience for. A film that is totally unknown in Sweden, and it's about 2 dogs, and
We did the same in Bergen last year. I not my idea because I'm allergic to dogs, but my colleague saw the potential, and we had a screening at the Cinematheque with a lot of dogs and people, and it went on national television because it was so crazy, and I loved it.
No, I think we might continue doing it if we have more dog films, because it was so much fun and people were so happy. And also some people said like, oh, I can never go out because I have to be home with my dog, and now I could, bring my dog. So we got a new audience also, so that's great.
I know a tiger and crocodile film if you want.
And this impact thing, how does it work?
How does it work? So now it's more of we started up. We got some funding from the Postcode Lottery. I don't know if you have it here in Romania, but Postcode Lottery. It's like a Dutch lottery company from the beginning. They have it in Sweden. They have it in many countries, and they give out a percentage of all their money. So it's really good in Sweden. You can get quite a lot of money for cultural projects. And so we start this up. The main thought is to kind of really work more with some of the titles. I mean, we have the brand and we put out the films, we do these events, but some titles we want to work a little bit more with. So we choose 3 films this year to work with and really try to find an impact goal for the film, not only like the goal we want to have as many people as possible to see it, that's normally our goal, but the goal to kind of what do we want to change in the world with this film, and how can we connect organizations who works with these questions, like other non-profits that is not in the culture world, or companies, or other organizations who's really trying to work to change, for example, the environment or the different things. And how can we connect with them so that we also get like other knowledge, but other money and other forces, resources, energy to kind of use the documentary as a tool for them to kind of work with their topics and questions, and also use that as a way of distributing the film, so to say. So the idea is to help organizations to create awareness of different questions, and then that they will then help the film to get distributed, basically.
I wanted to add something, because also from the video and from my research, like the dog lounge screenings look like really, really cool. Like even nicer than going to a cinema. So, which is something amazing that you managed to do. And I want to find out a bit more about it. How do you do it? How do you build up the event around the screenings? Is it more like the local organizers who put their imprint on it, or is it like a variation between the different dog lounges, the regional variation? But also dog lounge is very strong as a brand in the whole region. So
Yeah, so we have, we have some rules and regulations and kind of a concept that everyone has to follow in a way. So it needs to be in a non-cinema venue. It needs to be like more of a social seating, that you can have tables and chairs, not like a theater seating. It needs to have a bar where you can buy alcohol. It's very important in Sweden to make it more fun and relaxed. And you need to have extra content. So you need to add something extra. So you need to add like local music or a DJ, and it doesn't have to be like a professional DJ. It could be the director coming, playing his favorite music, or the cultural boss of that city, or someone who's like related to the topic of the film, and then or a discussion after the film, of course, and that could also be the director coming in, but also sometimes we have them on Skype, which also works perfectly fine, I think, if you have a smaller budget. But you can also, of course, invite guests from your city who you can connect with around the topic. But we also, the events are built up to create great evenings, but also to bring in new audiences. So we always think about who to invite for playing music. Someone who has a big audience themselves on social media, for example, or someone who has a big following network somewhere, or someone who's a part of an organization who's working with these questions, so that that person will be an ambassador for the screening. So we always try to collaborate with interesting and cool people locally in every town. And yes, we don't do that centrally because I think that's impossible. That's, I think, one of the strengths of our concept, that we have local teams, passionate local teams in each city who runs the organizations locally, who makes the events, who knows the city and the audience and the network in that city. So yeah, they are the amazing people who make that happen everywhere, basically.
That's more money to put into it, no? So
Sorry?
For instance, that's more money when you do this, these more activities, going outside the box with the film, that means more money.
how do you finance it?
Can you afford that, for instance, as an independent distributor? Yeah, putting money into activities that are not, just distributing the film, making posters, copies, prints, sending them out, calling the press, doing a press screening, and the basic.
Only that, when you say the press, I'm very depressed by the press. Because, the journalists, they go home at 3:30 in the afternoon. Before, 20 years ago, journalists, they were out in the evening, drinking beer and trying to find out what happened. No, they don't do that anymore. They have children, and they go home to take care of the children. And so I'm very depressed by the press. And I'm also depressed by what's happening with the Netflix and all that stuff. It makes it very difficult for us to program. And 2 years ago, I had a film at the festival called Icarus, which is on Netflix. And I was begging them to let me present the film because it's wonderful. And they said, well, if you are so eager, you can screen it the day it starts on Netflix for free for the audience. I said, okay, I'll do that, because I love the film. And I got money from other sources for doing that. So, there are ways of getting money to do things, even though it seems like a catastrophe when it comes to making money on these films. There are many ways. We have something called EEA grants. I don't know if you have heard about it, Norwegian grants, because Norway has a lot of money. Yeah, Norway has a lot of money, but we can't use the money in Norway because then we are overheating our economy. So, but we can give money to other countries, and we do that by the Norway grants and the EE grants. So Gilava got a lot of money because we had a cooperation with them in Bergen Film Festival and Gilava.
Yeah.
We didn't get that, they got big money. And the same with the Watchdogs in Poland. They got also big money, and we got a little bit. But it's a pleasure doing that. And now we are trying to have a new run with the EEA for new project with a lot of countries from Central Europe again and Norway. Yeah.
You wanted to say, and meanwhile I have to go and switch on the air conditioning because otherwise.
Yeah, you have some flyers you can use too.
Okay.
I have two things I wanted to say. One was when you were talking about Netflix. I think this is a really interesting time when we are seeing in Europe actually a big change, and something needs to be done, even because many of us are funded by the Creative Europe. Like, how is this going to be handled? Because the big players are from the US, they come from a totally different history of film industry, and our film industry is very much based on film festivals. All the premiering, the life of the film starts at the film festival. So I can actually understand this agony you go through as programmers when you're fighting for films. And this is something that, of course, the big US players needs to somehow learn or adapt to once entering the European territory. That this is something that they need to deal with. I mean, the film festival is something that is essential to a life of a film here. So. Yeah, it's an interesting time, and of course the whole conflict in Cannes was very symptomatic for this, but that's a year old already. For the distribution and the funding, as you were saying, that you need money for the events you do and so on, exactly, and very specifically I was cooperating as a distribution manager with When the War Comes, the same co-producers of Touch Me Not. And how we did it practically was that, so there's a fund in Czech Republic for the State Cinematography Fund for distribution. So, but they don't like to support producers because they know that the producers are hiding other things in the distribution grant usually. So they usually like to support distributors. So we got a distributor, but we knew that this distributor, a big one, wouldn't really achieve that many numbers because they just do the old mechanisms. They just do the poster, they send out the film, and then like you have a couple of tens of people coming to a documentary. So, and we knew that with documentary films it's very much event-based, it is more that you need to do the work around it and so on. So we did a deal with the distributor that he asked for the money, but we separated the budget, and the producer took, let's say, a third of the money for the alternative distribution of the film. And then we knew that we have, I don't know, let's say 5,000 euros that we can spend for discussions and events that we can do apart for that. And you pay a person, you have 1,500 euros to pay a person who does the promotion and the distribution strategy of this event. And then you have also the local theatrical distributor who does the conventional stuff with the posters and the tracks and stuff. And then you have and what we did was that we did 4 major events. Each event was in a different specific space. One was in a more like elite, posh, modern contemporary gallery. Another one was more punk, anarchist. Another one was in a theater. So with each event we had a big panel discussion after the film because it's a very important contemporary topic. So we stated these 4 events that were very much promoted and somehow reached out to other audiences, and that helped us actually build a new audience. But otherwise it wouldn't be possible for a film that it's called When the War Comes, and it was screened at Berlinale Panorama. And then in Czech Republic, it was quite desperate to actually find a distributor. I mean, Berlinale doesn't even mean that much, probably, for the local distributors. So that was just my experience with the budgeting of combining these alternative strategies.
I think it's very important to work with everything you can find to screen the film, not only with the cinemas, because with the cinemas we have like a lot of digitalized cinema in Croatia, but most of those digitalized cinemas are in the small cities where old style people from the old time are sitting for the pay wage. They don't need to bring anyone in the cinema, and they just take the film because we are boring to them, you know, and they said, okay, I will screen the film. A lot, but basically they have like 2 or 3 people in the cinema then. And our strategy in the very beginning was everybody needs to see the documentary, and we really had like 45 or 50 cinemas, and we were boring on the telephone and writing and blah blah. Then we realized we don't have capacities like to go with most of them, because 20 of them are not bringing any people because they don't care, not because they can't, but they don't care. We had very nice with More Than Honey. We had a great campaign with the bee growers, how you call it, bee carers, whatever. In Zagreb it was great. In bigger city it was good. We talked in like half an hour with someone that you can do this and you have this association and call them and blah 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 blah. And after half an hour the guy told me, okay, but who will do it? And I said, you? No. Because they thought that I'm telling him what we will do in his city that is like 300 kilometers from. So basically we use also KineDok facilities as much as we can, so we screen like regular films when it goes out from like regular cinemas. We do also high quality screenings in libraries, in NGOs, wherever we can, and we just ask for the flat fee of 30-40 euro, because it's important that this is going on. And we don't have problem with the press. We have wonderful relation with the press, but the thing is that nobody's reading anything anymore. So I mean, the PR strategy is basically just to be boring on Facebook, on Instagrams, wherever, and I mean, as less words as possible. I hate it, but it's unfortunately like this. Huh?
When you say boring, I guess you mean something else.
It means that we are every day, all the time, on all these social networks, and also doing a lot of events. It's very important for us. But you can't do event for every film that you're doing in every city that you're. I mean, we really depend on. But I mean, we keep our head. As long as it's like this, we will keep doing it. When we will not, we will grow wine. I mean, it's okay. Also.
So should we? Yeah, let's open.
I have a question about Dot Alliance. I'm not sure I understand the exact, not business model maybe is the word, but you take rights for worldwide, right?
Yeah, but it's not exclusive rights.
Okay.
Worldwide, we can exclude territories. So you can either tell me the 5 territories where it should be available, or the 10 territories we should exclude.
Okay.
And so then, in these countries, the film is not available. And we take SVOD, subscription model, TVOD, the transactional, and the EST, the electronic sell-through, which means that you download to own. So these are the 3 things that we take in the contract. And then we can state also the various formats that the film is available in. The license term is always different. When it's a deal with a producer, it's usually for 2 years, and then it's automatically renewed. But also we put an opt-out into the contract, so if you have anyone approaching you as a broadcaster or a festival who wants the film in a specific territory exclusively, then we can of course put the film online during the offline during the contract in a specific territory.
Okay, so it's very flexible.
Totally.
And can I ask something that's maybe private? How much do you offer for films?
Well, if we offer MG, then it's usually from 150 euros to 1,000 euros, but 1,000 is more than we're talking about retrospectives of Jonas Mekas and Agnes Wagner and so on. And then you can earn from, I don't know, 10 euros to 3,500 euros in 6 months, having a film just there. I mean, it really depends, it varies. The more, as a rights holder, you have films with us, the more you can gather, the more the films are in the subscription, the better. We divide the money between the films when they're clicked on play. So we take the money from the subscriptions, and we divide them between the films that have been actually played. So the more people watch your film, the more you should get the money.
Okay.
And yeah,
And do you take films right after the festival release, or?
ideally, I mean, we take on board films that have been to our Doc Alliance festivals, but they're not obliged, but they're automatically selected. So if you have a film that has been to any of these competitions, then of course you can approach us and you can go automatically online. And then I also do acquisitions in other festivals, or I just select, films for curated programs and so on. And yeah, I mean, as soon as possible. But we have films that are, of course, like from the 90s or also 1903 or something like that, like the oldest things. So it really depends on what your plans are with the film. Of course, VOD can still be a block for many competitive festivals for you. So it's good to think about that. But I think it's becoming less and less of a problem, and I think that once you have once someone actually knows about your film, it's good to offer it at as many distribution channels as you can. But I must say that, of course, the VOD is becoming also somehow relevant distribution channel money-wise for producers, and it's just in the 2 last years because the audience behavior has changed. And so it's developing very much.
But would it be possible for a producer, distributor, or sales agent to approach you, let's say, after the film has been to all the festivals and has
Sure.
maybe had cinema release and so on?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're used to it.
Yeah.
It was always like at the end of the tail, really, and now it's changing. So of course, I mean, it used to be usually 2 years after the world premiere. So, but now it's getting earlier and earlier, and that's why I was actually talking about the specific homepages we're going to change for territories, because with local film professionals, we want to organize more day and date releases that are only open to 1 or 2 territories, because that's the only way you can put a film online at an early stage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I also have a question. Do you have a TV app?
No, it's really expensive. We don't have the budget for that. You can put us online through like an Apple TV or something, or Chromecast. So you can send it from your phone or your computer to another projector, but we're kind of, every year we think about this, but we're not in that budget, because there's each, of course, I mean, every of this tool needs a specific application. It all costs too much money, and then once you do the application, you need to invest money into it all the time as well. So we give it, I mean, once we have money, we just give it for the rights of the films.
So do you take rights only for Norway, or sometimes you take it for other Nordic countries?
No, it's so risky to take it from other countries, so it's only Norway. Yeah. The Swedes are doing more of taking it, and also the Danish from time to time, but Sweden is much more aggressive on that.
Always.
Yeah.
Do you take it?
I mean, we take, the official selection that we distribute through the network, we take for Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, but that's only the screening rights for a specific period of time. When we do the bigger all rights distribution, it's only for Sweden at this point, but we just started doing that, so we'll see. But yeah, I think we will keep doing only Sweden.
I can explain. The reason is that Norway have always been municipalities, I mean the cities, owned the cinemas throughout the country. There was almost no private cinemas, whereas the distributors were private. So the distributors are taking all the risk, sending films to the cinemas who picks them or not. So the trouble is, it's different in Sweden and Denmark. They didn't have the same communist system that Norway had. So there was a lot of private cinemas and cinema change, like SF in Sweden, Svensk film industry, and Egmont in Denmark, which is Nordic film. distribution. So they are specialists on owning both the cinema and the distribution company. Whereas we in Norway, we didn't have a distribution company. There was, we only had the municipalities. And suddenly in 2013, everything cracked because we got a right-wing government. So they decided to dissolute all they started the privatization of the cinemas. So now there's a lot of private cinemas owned by the Swedes, owned by the Danish, but not owned by the Norwegians. So that's what happened. So in the old days we didn't need to have theaters that was private because the law said that you had to have a fund and you had to have so many films that were art house films, or you call festival films. But now, after the privatization, they don't care about that. So we are in deep shit in many ways. We get subsidies to take in films, but the cinema manager says, we don't care about your film, even though you have got 100,000 krona. So,
but then maybe you have to go the other model, you know.
yeah.
No cinemas, but
But we don't have a tradition for having distributors owning cinemas until now.
you can start a tradition.
Yes.
With some money. So with money. Is it so sad now? We need to go to drink today.
No, but I have one question. No, it's okay. But it's for you, Maya.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
No, but you have to speak louder.
I actually wanted to ask about this more, about the financial plan of Dog Lounge. How it is sustainable compared to us, because it's similar in concept to KineDok, and I just want to see how it functions in Scandinavia.
Yes, so we have, I mean, the different parts are financed differently. The distribution, when we bring in like a film for all rights in Sweden, we can get some money from the Swedish Film Institute for like launching the film or like importing a film. And then for running the organization and running the network, we get some funds also from the Swedish Film Institute, like it's distribution, like yearly distribution support, which all bigger distributors in Sweden gets, and the film festivals is like kind of a support to kind of bring out good films to the people, basically. But that's really only for like the coordinating work we do. And then the local screenings are financed totally locally, so it's by ticket sales, some municipality funds, or private funds, or other kind of funds that you can find locally. And also a lot of volunteer work. In some cities is only based on volunteer work, and collaborations with the venue, for example, so that they can be in the venue for free because the venue really needs some content for a Tuesday night, for example, and they can sell beer in the bar or whatever. So it's like always finding really like good collaborations with people who has some money or has a venue, or so dealing with those things. So yeah, so it's a mix with funds, for sure. We have funds, and then money, sales, yeah. Mm.
Because it's actually profitable to screen documentaries. Like you make money from sales.
I mean, we don't get a profit. It's always like just, it eats up with other things, but we get money from, if we have in Malmö, we do screenings every week. We have, in general, 150 people. They pay €9, so of course there's some money, but the money goes to organizing the event, to pay the salaries, of course, so it's not really profitable, I would say. It's difficult, and it would be really hard if we didn't have funds from municipalities and the state or volunteer work, of course, yeah.
And sponsors? You also get sponsors?
In very small scales, like for a small event, we can get some small things, but that's something we've been trying to really work on. But in Sweden, there's no tradition at all to work with sponsors in culture. I mean, if you're a big music festival, yes, or if you're like the opera, or maybe like the biggest film festival has sponsors, but it's really been a tradition of having grants from the municipality and not being connected to any kind of commercial money. That has been a bad thing before. Now it's changing, but it's still like not in our tradition of thinking as cultural people, but also of course in the industry, like with the people with money, they don't see the value either. So it's kind of really, I think, a long way to go. But we try to get money from everywhere, basically. But then I think also working with universities or working with other non-profit organizations, bigger foundations and stuff like that, it's easier. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's very different in different countries. I worked in this European organization before called Transeuropean, who's connecting cultural centers all over Europe. And in some countries they were really like, wow, we will never take money from the government. Come on, that's not being free. Like with all private money, that's like much better, because of course it's different what kind of relationship you have with your government and the history in the past and the political situation. So yeah.
What's this pop-up thing?
Oh yeah, the pop-up is like the Dock Lounge lights. So if you don't have the time or the means or the money to really run like a full Dock Lounge premium club where you have to do all these things that we tell people to do, then you can also do Dock Lounge pop-up. Just if you want to screen some of our films, do an event, and then you just do that. So it's kind of like an extension of the Dock Lounge concept.
But they come towards you.
Yeah.
There's like an application process. Like,
well, no, I mean they just email us. Like people hear us talk about us, see us, and they see our films. They want to do it, and so we have some partners who do, like libraries, for example. They don't have the means to have like a bar and to have local bands and to do all the things, but they want to screen the film. And since the brand is now so big and popular in Sweden, a lot of organizations they want to use Dock Lounge as a brand. So then we said, okay, you can say Dock Lounge pop-up, because we have to differentiate with the real Dock Lounge events, so to say.
You will not allow Dock Lounge in the library because it doesn't have all the conditions.
Exactly, yeah.
But the pop-up is possible.
The pop-up could be anywhere, basically, yeah.
Okay.
So it could be regular screenings in a library, or it could be just one outdoor screening, as you were talking about also. So it's more of a light, easy concept for us to kind of spread the films more than only doing the events, yeah. To get bigger volume, broader audience.
And the live thing? There's a live.
Yeah, the live thing, we also developed a live streamed event. No, this is, yeah. So we actually live stream the full event that we did in Malmö, and then that would live stream it out to libraries and whoever wanted to be part of screening the film, and then they could interact with the guests by sending in questions and so on with SMS or social media. It worked very well, but it's also quite expensive. Because we wanted to make it like really creative, like really making the people out there feeling that they were on a Dock Lounge event. So we had a lot of different cameras, and, so it got quite expensive, and we didn't get that many partners. I think we needed maybe 20 or 25 partners to be able to pay the actual production. So we do it sometimes if we get money if we get more money, specific money for a certain film, we do it. But the idea was to do it like 4 times a year and to get like people to sign up for it before 4 screenings, basically. But we were almost there, but we had a development fund from the region. And the last year when we were like, okay, this year is year it's gonna, you know, break through, they stopped the funding, so we had to quit doing it on this regular basis. But we still have the concept and the partners, and we do it sometimes when we have extra money.
And to bring in guests, like directors and stuff, is every location, they are contacting them on their own and inviting them?
We do sometimes, we coordinate directors' visits, but quite rarely. I mean, we don't have budgets and funds for bringing directors from other countries, so it's more if there's a Swedish director, for example. Sometimes we coordinate the Skype Q&As, which is actually, I don't know if you have any experience, but I think sometimes it works better than actually having the director there, because it gets exciting to have a director like, oh, hey, I'm here from the office in China, or whatever. I mean, you feel sometimes like, oh, the world is actually coming to me. So we have really good experiences from that. And then otherwise it's more local guests. So it's normally like people, because it's also, sometimes of course if you have a director it's very interesting for the audience, but normally people don't know the director from beforehand. So it's not like so attractive in that sense, it's like not a famous person. But if you bring in a famous person from that city that people know and who knows a lot of people, that actually attracts more people to the audience, I would say, or to the screening, yeah.
No questions?
Okay.
We can have like summing up question. How do you think all these aspects of distribution complement each other, and how can we best use them for the launch of a film? Like all the classical distribution, theatrical distribution, VOD, alternative distribution. How do you think we can like strategize the different platforms?
My God, I don't know what to say, but
In 5 words.
yeah, no, but there's as a friend of mine who's running the British Film Institute department of audiences, and he says to me that, or to everybody, that the film has to have a purpose. The film has an audience, and you have to know that audience. Or on the opposite, the audience wish to have this kind of film or something like that. So the purpose of the film is getting more and more important. You can't just release a film and saying, oh, this is the best French film made last year. We didn't know with the film. The film critics of France said that this film, Player Aimé Courir Vite, was the best film. But no one turns up to see it because they don't relate to it. So you have to find the films that people relate to and pick them. I think that's getting more and more important.
You mean you need to be an anthropologist?
No, but it has something to do with your upbringing and your education and so on. That there are things you, like for instance, like the film Loving Vincent, about Vincent van Gogh, the Polish animation film. I would very much like to take that film in distribution, but I decided to screen it at the festival first and see how people reacted. And in the meantime, somebody else bought it. And it did very well at the festival, and it did very well in cinema, because people could relate to Vincent van Gogh. So that's a very good example. And there's a very silly example also, the film Stalin's Death of Stalin. We watched part of it and we thought it was ridiculous, not good at all, even though I know the director, it's been my guest. But we said, no way, this film is not good enough. And somebody else bought it and put it in cinema, and the film critics said, oh, this is a wonderful film. And it wasn't. But people turned up because, okay, it's a film about Stalin. So that's what I mean relate to something you already have some relationship to.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to comment on that. I think you're totally right that you can't just bring in a film and then hope that people will come and see it. But I also think that it's not totally right to say that you have to find the audience or it has to be an audience there. I think you can also create an audience. And if you have a film that you really love and you think is great, I think more people will love this film. But then maybe you have to help them to be able to relate to the film, and finding like what can we do to make people see this film anyway and to relate to it, as you say, because of course you have to relate to it. Otherwise, there's so many things in the world going on all the time, and why should you choose this film that you don't have any kind of connection to? But by kind of bringing in other elements or events or things like that, I think you can create the audience for any film you like.
Yeah, I think I agree, because otherwise we wouldn't survive, with what we're doing. But I think it's also about deciding like where you are and who you are, because I mean, either you are part of like a food chain and you make films for the industry to put them into some places that you know that will be accepted, and you just put it like a food industry, food chain, like production, festival, training, festival, promotion, and so on. Or you're like out of the food chain, and that is of course more difficult, but that's also more important. So, and that's probably many films that we work with. And it's films that are not made for many audiences, and that's also the question, does art exist without audience, blah, blah, but, these films exist, and they're demanding, and there is also a small demanding audience, so we try to look for that, of course. But I think it's about, I don't think there's a rule. It's about understanding yourself and whether you're doing the films because of what? What kind of reason? Right? And making money is always difficult with art, and defining. Whenever I talk with producers, it's about what is the success for you. What is it? Is it the money, or how much money, or how many people? Is it everything? Do you want to change the world? Do you want to many producers just say, I want to make my director happy. that's also success. So for me, it's always a search. We work with very demanding films, with very difficult films. Audiences exist for that, but we always have to develop a new way for each of these films. And it's about combining all of them at a certain time. It's about thinking of ways of how to specifically communicate this film. I think the way how we reach out to audiences are even more and more visual all the time. So we invested thousands and thousands of euros last year into digital marketing, and then realized that actually the largest conversions come from our Facebook and newsletter, something that we have been doing for 12 years. So it's about how you narrate the narrative you put the films into, and how you communicate it, and with which kind of visual parts you do it, and so on.
Well, I think we are experimenting all the time. We are all the time going in the new stuff. Now, for the first time, we work with the PR company from outside, because before we had a PR in the company. It's working for the salary. Now we took someone from the outside, because they can perceive what we are doing from different point of view. And they started to come up with the campaigns and small Facebook things, a lot that we would not think of. They get the film, they take the small experts, and then they launch the campaign completely different way than we would be. I'm too much into the film and into the documentary to realize, to relate completely about the audience. So now, we just started, it's the first month now, I will tell you next year how it was. But we are experimenting. If it doesn't go this way, let's try that way. If this cinema doesn't want the film, then we are convincing them to make a small review or small documentary film festival that lasts 3 days. Doesn't matter, just screen the films. So we are testing ourselves and improvising a lot. 4 people for now.
So I wanted to make one last comment. now we are also, so an example of combining offline with online distribution. KineDok will also have an online component, thanks to Diana and DA Films. Like a lot of the KineDok films from previous years will be available online starting from this year. And also like on our website and on the DA Films website. And so it's going to be like, we're trying also a new model where we combine live screenings with the online and hopefully reach out to more audience like this. So thank you very much.
Just one comment. I had a film at my festival, which is also here, called Three Identical Strangers. It's a British-American film, but it's really British director. And when I saw that film in Sundance, and I worked with the festival, and I told all the volunteers, come to see this film for free 2 weeks before the festival. And there was a lot of people, volunteers, watching it. And they spread a rumor about this film. And we had 4 full screenings. And you have to see it. It's called Three Identical Strangers. It's really fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for what you're doing and for being here and come back.
Thank you.